Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. What if your copy job knew exactly what's changed on your source site, be it deletes or updates or inserts? Well, in this episode, I'll show you how change data capture in copy job, which is a preview feature, makes your copy reliable, simple, and more efficient. Okay, so let us quickly look at the problem statement and solution, and then I will dive into Fabric to show you how you can set up the CDC in the copy job. So we can have two different sample databases, Azure SQL databases, and I'll show you how you can set up the CDC. So what are the different commands that you need to execute on the DB side as well to enable this CDC capability on your Azure SQL database, let's say. So we'll look at it end to end, and since this is a part of applied learning series, we are going to dive deep into the actual topic itself. And if there is any limitation, we will also capture those limitations and considerations as well in this video. Okay, so let's get started. So the problem statement. So I think traditionally full copy jobs, it reloads the entire tables, as you know, it wastes the compute and bandwidth as well, right? So I think it's a traditional scenario that we are looking at, but you can also do incremental copying of your data, okay, by setting up some watermark column, for example, the last modified date as a workaround. But I'll tell you the problem with that as well and what CDC is trying to resolve. But I think with watermark column, I think you have few problems at all. So we will see what are those issues, So at this moment, we require a reliable solution, always updated column in source tables. Okay, so if you are building your incremental copy based on, let's say, the timestamps like last modified and all, so in case if the timestamps are missed, then your incremental copy breaks, and it's even if it's not updated consistently also, there'll be a problem. Okay, so or what if multiple columns drive changes at all, right? So I think it also cannot capture your deletes as well, okay, with the watermark based solution. Okay, so since deleted rows no longer exist in your source, so there is no point of it cannot detect the deletes. So there is a problem again with the watermark based solution. Okay, so this leaves huge gap in tracking the true data changes, and that's where CDC comes into picture from Microsoft. It is a preview feature, so probably if there are any limitations, maybe Microsoft will work on it and then probably kind of lift the limitation during the general availability, you can say. Okay, but this is a problem. So we have some workarounds with watermark, but it is not reliable as such, and we need a reliable solution. That's when Microsoft came up with the CDC feature in Fabric copy job. Okay, so let us look at the solution. So as we discussed, the copy job with CDC, which is in preview, reads directly from the source databases CDC change tables. So we're going to look at how you can make your database and tables CDC compliant. Okay, so there are some commands that you need to execute. There are stored procedures, system stored procedures that you need to execute to make the table CDC compliant. Then I think it will automatically captures the inserts, updates, and deletes automatically. So no custom logic is required or strict reliance on a single watermark column. Okay, so we'll look that in action shortly. And it ensures complete, accurate incremental replication to Fabric or Azure SQL DB. So there are some supported connectors. So I'll quickly take you through in the Microsoft documentation what are those connectors that are supported at the moment. So from source to the destination, and it reduces the refresh times and operational cost while maintaining the data fidelity, right? So that's our goal or aim with the solution that we're trying to demonstrate here. Okay, before we jump on to the demo itself, so let us quickly look at some of the supported connectors, as I mentioned, from source to destination, and then we'll also look at some limitations and stuff like that and key benefits. And then I think it's good we can move on to Fabric and Azure to see how we can implement this CDC feature, which is currently in preview in copy job. Okay, so I think we talked a bit about why CDC. Okay, so it's a powerful capability in Fabric Data Factory that enables efficient and automated replication of changed data, including inserted, updated, and deleted records from your source to destination. Okay, so this ensures your destination data stays up to date without any manual effort at all. So that improves efficiency in data integration while reducing the load on your source system. So that's That's exactly what CDC is aimed for. And some of the key benefits, I think, as we already talked about, zero manual intervention. So it automatically detects whatever change that is applied on the source tables, and then it will capture those and then do the incremental copy to your destination. Okay, so it does this in real time. The automatic replication happens. Okay, so it continuously synchronize your source changes with the destination, so it is quite reliable as well. And I think it's optimized for performance as well. So it processes only the change data, reducing processing time and minimizing the load on the source. So that's very important in a large enterprise kind of a scenario. Okay, and smarter incremental copy, so it automatically detects such CDC enabled source tables and allows you to select either CDC based or watermark based incremental copy for each table. Okay, so those are some of the key benefits, but let us look at the supported connectors. Okay, so currently only these are supported from source. You can have Azure SQL DB or on-premises SQL Server or managed instance. On the destination side, you can have Azure SQL DB or on-premises SQL Server or Azure SQL Managed Instance and SQL database in Fabric. Okay, so you cannot have your source as SQL database in Fabric, which is already in preview, but you can have your destination. If you want to copy from, let's say, Azure SQL DB to the SQL database in Fabric, that's totally possible. But in our demo, what we are going to do is we are going to have two different Azure SQL DB, and then we are going to set up how you can flow the data, copy the data from one SQL database to another SQL Azure database by enabling the CDC at the database and table level on the source side. Okay, so we are going to look at that shortly. And I think this how to get started section will give you some information. So the steps that we are going to look at, you can go through. I'll share the link in the description for further reading and resources. Okay, so you can follow along as well. Okay, so let me move on to Fabric. Okay, so I have the copy job already enabled set up, but I'll show you how you can do it from scratch as well, so that you can set it up for your use case scenarios. Well, so in my Azure, I have a couple of databases built. Okay, so I have testdb 102 and then I have testdb 101. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, so we are going to have a simple table like, sales orders or something like that. You can have any table just for demonstration purposes. So we are going to copy the data from Azure SQL DB, which is testdb 102 to testdb 101. Okay, and we will see how we can do that. Okay, with the copy job in Fabric shortly. So before you go ahead and try to implement this feature in Fabric copy job, so there are a couple of commands that you need to be aware. So one is you need to enable the CDC at the database level. So how do you do that? So you can execute this system SP, which is SP CDC enable DB. Okay, so that's the SP in sys schema, so that you need to execute. So that will enable the CDC at the database level. So once you run this command, and if you can look at, so I'm in query editor within the Azure portal. Okay, so once you expand the tables section, so once you execute this command, you should see there are some CDC tables, CDC related tables, with the CDC schema automatically created for you. Okay, so for the operations in the backend. Okay, so you no need to worry about it. Once you execute this in your database, you should see some of the tables like captured columns, CDC jobs, change tables. Those are the tables in CDC schema should be created. Okay, automatically it will be created for you, and then it will be ready. Okay, and then I'm going ahead and creating a sample table. Let's say in DBO schema, sales orders, which has order ID, customer name, order date, order amount, and last modified. Okay, so a simple table that I'm creating here. Okay, so you can create whatever table you want if you want to replicate this scenario. And I think also in the next step, you need to also make sure you enable the CDC on the table side as well. Okay, so like how we did, this command will enable the CDC at the database level, but I think this command execution sys sp cdc enable table and then we are passing the parameter source schema, the source name. So the table is already created, which is DBO sales order. I'm passing those in parameters, and the role name, you can keep it null, and the supports net changes should be enabled. So as you can see in the documentation, make sure there is a note in Microsoft documentation, as you can see here. Yeah, be sure supports net changes is enabled, okay, in that command for a table. Okay, so and the suggestion is to enable CDC for all the tables mentioned above. Okay, so make sure you are enabling it at the database level as well as at the table level, so that we can see when we are trying to build the copy job, we can see what are the tables that are CDC enabled. Okay, so I think make sure you execute this at the table level with this command, supports net changes is equal to 1 as well. That must be enabled to capture the changes in real time automatically, okay, for this particular table. Okay, so before we go ahead and insert something, I already have some data. I can quickly show you. So this is the sales orders table. So let me look at the data. So I've already inserted some data, okay, some dummy data that you can see with the customer information, order date, and order amount. The last modified, these are like with the get date we are inserting, okay, so which is the actual insertion date. So let me come back to Fabric portal. So here I have my workspace CDC demo, okay, and then I have this copy job which I have built. But let me show you from scratch how you can do the setup, and what are some of the things that you need to keep in mind when probably performing the the CDC copy from scratch. Okay, so here I'm not scheduling it. I have built it, and you can check the run history. It's successful when I built and ran it for few times, okay, with inserts and updates. Okay, so but let me go to my workspace CDC demo. Let me get into my workspace, and then let me create a new item. So in the all items you should search for copy job, right? So let's kickstart the copy job. So let's say test, click on create, and I think parallelly, let's say now the demonstration is between two different Azure SQL databases, right? So make sure you open the database and copy the server information somewhere for both the databases. So you can get into the database and you can copy the server information from here. So let's go back to Fabric. So here you will have all the required steps for the copy job to take effect. So we'll need to go through it one by one. So I'm going to choose the data source as Azure SQL DB, and you need to input your server information, which you can pull from the SQL database, the actual logical server that you have, and then you need to point it to the database that you have. Okay, so it could be 102 or 101. Okay, and then the critical thing is the connection. When you're creating a new connection, right, so you need to be bit aware of the authentication kinds. You can go with basic, but I went for organizational account. So you can see the organizational account, and I've already built this with my organizational account. Okay, but I think you need to be aware of a couple of things. So when you're trying to authenticate to SQL DB with your organizational account, with your AD account, basically, so you need to have that user as a contained user in the database as well. So I'll tell you how you can do that. You need to have this user in the database level also. Otherwise, I think you may run into issues, because I faced a few issues and I had to. I think this is not mentioned explicitly in the documentation. Okay, so when you're trying to authenticate with organizational account, so you have to probably kind of have that user as a contained user in the Azure SQL database itself. Okay, so I'll show you exactly how you can do that. So otherwise, the privacy level, you can choose organizational, or in my setup I've chosen privacy level as organizational, and then the connection is encrypted, and then you can go ahead. Okay, so let's give a try with the already existing connection. So in case if you're facing any issues when you're setting up the connection here, feel free to reach out to me in the comments so I can help you to troubleshoot in case if you're facing any issues. Let's go by the already existing connection. Okay, so testdb 102, because we're going to copy the data from testdb 102 to 101. Okay, so let me go ahead with the authentication kind as organizational account for this particular DB, Azure SQL database. So it will take a bit of moment to connect to the data source, and then you will get the next step, which is to choose your data from this particular source database. Okay, so once you establish the connection, and then when you move on to choose the tables, so you can see within this Azure SQL DB testdb 102, there are some CDC schema related tables, so which you no need to disturb, but the sales order table that we created, so as you can see, you can clearly see. Okay, so let me show you that. So there is a, in the table you can see the table is CDC enabled, the sales order table. So if you remember, so we had to execute this SP for this table, and when you're picking the table, you need to see this the table is CDC enabled or not. Okay, so we have just seen that. So let me just scroll down a bit. So you can see this DBO sales order table is CDC compliant or CDC enabled. Okay, and ready to go ahead to set up the copy job further. Okay, but other tables are system related tables, and you can see for the sales orders table also there is a housekeeping table that is created as well in the backend. So you can just go through it, but probably no need to dig deep into the tables that is kind of maintained in the backend. So all these tables are created automatically when you enable the CDC capability in your database and for your table. But all you need to do is pick that table which is now CDC enabled and then go ahead further. Okay, click on next, and you can choose the data destination, and here in my case it could be in your case it could be Fabric SQL DB, which is in preview, but I'm going to sync it to another SQL database, which is testdb 101. Okay, so we are doing the copy between testdb 102 to testdb 101. So here I can get into my testdb 101 server, get the server information. You can get the server name and bring it here. That's not the complete server name, probably. Let me, yeah, now we got the complete server name. Just bring it here, and the database is testdb 101, and again the connection credentials. You can set up a new connection with the authentication kind as organizational account or other even service principal you can use, but there is also basic authentication kind as well. But I think if you're going ahead with the organizational account with your AD account, there is one additional step which you need to perform. So I'm going to show you that exactly. Okay, so you can go ahead and probably click on next once you choose the data destination, and then you need to do the mapping, and then you can review the settings, and then we are done. Okay, so let me show you that as well, and then the built version I'll show you. So once we have gone through the required settings in the copy job. Okay, so you need to identify that CDC icon in the table, so that tells you the table is CDC enabled and ready for you to perform the copy. Okay, and then enable the CDC preview feature. So let's wait for a moment. Okay, once it's loaded, make sure you choose the destination database as well when you connect to that logical SQL server in your data destination. So wait for it to load, and you can see I can see my testdb 101, which I can choose and then go ahead further. And I think in the map to destination section, you can see it automatically shows the operation is going to be merge on copy job run, update existing rows and insert new rows. Okay, so it will load the key columns. You can also have a look at the key columns. Okay, so if you click on edit update method, so you can see even you can have your operation as append, but by default we are doing this merge operation between the source 2 and the destination table. Okay, and you can see the key columns for merge in the destination table. The destination table we are going to again name it as sales orders, and you can see the key columns. So you can choose which column is used to determine if a row from a source matches a row from the sink. So I think it will list all the columns from your table. You can choose which column you want to be a key column. Okay, so for it to merge the change, right? So here we are leaving it to order ID, okay, for our demo, okay, and then come back. Oh, sorry. So let me click on next, and here you can see the table mapping between source and destination is going to be sales orders, and it's going to be merge operation, and then the key columns, you can always edit the key columns to do the merge operation to your destination. Okay, click on next, and then in the copy job mode, I think the full copy is disabled. Okay, it's not supported when the update method is up, when we are doing a merge. Okay, so it has to be incremental copy. It will do a one-time or one-off full load, and then subsequent runs copy only the changes automatically. Okay, so and you can see here there is information. All tables have CDC enabled. Okay, it uses the CDC to automatically detect inserted, updated and deleted rows. Okay, so it is CDC enabled, and click on next, and then I think you're good to go. You can review your source information, and we are doing an incremental copy, the connection information, and then the destination, and I think you can save it and then do a run immediately, and you can also run it on a schedule. You can have multiple schedules also. Okay, Microsoft recently introduced that feature as well, so you can go ahead and save and click on run and see if your job is performing fine. But I think before you click on save and run, let me close this. I'm canceling it since the job is already available for me. Let me go to CDC demo, copy job CDC. So here you can see once you click on save and run, okay, so it will initiate the run after saving all the changes that you have done, and you can always review the connection information, server information, and the authentication kind, everything in your source and the destination as well. Okay, and it's an incremental copy from testdb 102 to testdb 101. So the key thing to keep in mind, so let me show you that. I think I talked about creating a contained user in your Azure SQL database. So if you are trying to authenticate to the Azure SQL DB with your organizational account, which is an AD account basically, right? So you have the user in Entra ID. Okay, so what you need to do is you need to create that user, probably your organizational email. You can provide this create user, your email from external provider. So what it will do is it will create the user as a contained user within the Azure SQL database, this particular database testdb 102, from external provider, which is Azure AD here or Entra ID. Okay, and I think the second step which you need to do is you need to also provide the required permissions. You need to alter this role. So I think in my case, for demonstration purposes, I kind of provided the permission, the DB owner role I have provided for my organizational account for demonstration purposes, but you need to think about, but the minimal permissions that you need for copy is DB data reader. You can try with DB data reader. You can alter the role and add this particular member that you're creating here from Entra ID. Okay, so this will create a contained user in your Azure SQL database, and that is crucial to perform the authentication during the copy operation. Okay, so in case if you're facing any challenges, let me know. And this step is required. I think it's not explicitly mentioned in the Microsoft documentation, but I think I had to perform this. Otherwise, when the copy job is initiated, you might run into some issues like the token issue. You may probably experience token issue. Okay, since the user is not a contained user within the database. So when you perform the step, the user will be registered and the contained user will be there within the database. Then I think the process will be smooth. Okay, so you can try without this step and see if the copy job is working fine. You can let me know in the comments. Otherwise, if you're facing that getting some error like token issue, then you need to definitely create this user as the organizational account as a contained user within the Azure SQL database and provide the required role permissions to that user as well. Okay, so once you're done with that, I think you're good to go. So we can perform some operations. It will initiate the full load for the first time, and then the subsequent runs will be a incremental copy. So you can see, as I've already mentioned, so I've done the full load already and some subsequent runs, but let's quickly test this. So this is not on a schedule, but let me come back to testdb 101. Okay, so this is our destination sales orders table, and you can already see, let me minimize this. So let me show only the results. So you can see here I have like 6 records in the destination table, like Alice, Bob. So some 6 customers are available, which was tested yesterday, 15/9. Okay, at the time of recording it's 16th of September. So let's give a try. Okay, show all. So from testdb 102, what I'm going to do is, so let's try and update some records. Okay, so we'll see if the changes captured automatically and synced. Okay, so let's say for Alice the order amount is 150.75, right? I'm going to, what is the order ID? So I think the key column for merge operation, we have provided the key column as order ID. So for Alice, the order ID is 1. He's on the top. He or she is on the top. So I'm going to update the order amount to, let's say, 999.999, the order amount. Okay, so what's the current order amount? For Alice, it's 150.75. And I'm going to update the sales order table in the source DB, which is testdb 102, and setting the order amount as 999.99, and the last modified date will be captured as today's get date, and we are going to update based on the order ID. Okay, so let me execute this. Okay, the query is succeeded. You can always verify it by running a query here, and for the order ID 1, you should see the change that we have, the order amount change for Alice. Okay, and the last modified date is 69. As you can see, the order date is 15/9. Now let's come back to the copy job, and I think if it's on a schedule, it will automatically capture the change from the source and sync it. But I'm not on a schedule, so I'm going to manually run this now. Okay, I'm running the copy job now with CDC, and let's see, once the job is completed, we need to see the changes reflected. For Alice, the order amount should be reflected here. Okay, so we have just done the update on the source DB in sales order table by updating the order amount for one of the customer, and we are running the copy job now. So that's in progress now at the moment, you can see. Okay, I think it might take few seconds or minutes, okay, based on the changes that we are detecting in the source. Okay, let us come back once the job is completed. Okay, we are back and we can see the job is now succeeded. Okay, so you can see here I read one row and then one row is returned to the destination. So I think it took quite some time, 1 minute and 41 seconds, but it shouldn't ideally be taking this much of time. Okay, so but the job is succeeded without any issue, and we can clearly see only one record we have updated in testdb 102, which is Alice record. Okay, it automatically captures that change in the source, and then it syncs the change to the destination as well. Okay, so let's come back to the testdb 101 and let's execute this query, and you can see Alice, the previous amount is 150.75 and should be synced now. So let me run this command again, sales order table, and there you go. Okay, for order ID customer Alice, the order amount has been updated to 999.99, and the last modified date is today's date. Okay, the order date is actually 59. And let us try one more scenario. The insert, probably we can insert some records into the sales order table. So we looked at updates in the source table. Let us try and insert in testdb 102 some records probably. Okay, so we can insert some records like Mike. I'm just changing the name. Okay, the order amount, leave it be. Christian, any name. Okay, Charlie, Trump. Okay, I'm inserting Mike, Christian, and Trump. I hope I'm not duplicating the customer. So let me, Alice, Bob, Charlie, Mike. Okay, Mike is already there. Alex, Kirk. Okay, Mike is already available, so we can change it to Gates. Okay, I'm inserting Gates, Christian, and Trump with some order amount into the sales order table. Let me run this in the source table. I'm inserting 3 records, so the query is now succeeded. So 3 records got inserted, and you can also verify the records. So you can see 3 more records inserted. Gates, Christian, and Trump got inserted today. And let's run the job now. So you can schedule this, probably every minute or 15 minutes to capture the changes in real time. But I'm not running it on a schedule now. So let me manually run the job now. Okay. I'm kicking the job. Okay, so we have the change in the source and 3 records got inserted, should be captured, and then it should be synced to the destination. Okay, so let's wait for a moment. Once the job is complete, then we can have a quick look at the destination table. So let us come back once the job is complete. Okay, we are back and you can see the copy job is now complete. Okay, and you can see it succeeded, and then it read 3 rows and then 3 rows return into the destination. So we have inserted 3 rows into the source table, and then it captured automatically those 3 records, and then it synced to the destination. You can always look at click on the link here. It will show the copy job details. So the data read 200 bytes and how many rows read and returned into the destination. Okay, and when it started and the throughput information and all. Okay, and you can also review the run history here. So the last runs, whether it's failed or succeeded, and you can look at the information and more details with respect to that particular run. Okay, it took around 1 minute and 32 seconds to capture the changes in the source and then sync it to the destination. Okay, so let me come back to the test DB101. So now I think at this moment, so we have only 6 records. I think since the job is completed, we need to see those 3 additional records that we have inserted. Okay, let me run this and let's see. Yes, there you go. I think 3 records that we have inserted are captured from source and then synced to the destination sales orders table. So I can see Gates, Christian, and Trump with the order date as today's date got successfully inserted with their order amount. And that's the beauty of copy job with the CDC capability that you have just seen in action in real time. And you can set up a schedule. If I go back to the workspace and the copy job, you can set up a schedule. You can have multiple schedules as well. Okay, and keep a track of it will update. It will capture all of your changes in the source table automatically, and then it will sync it to the destination in real time. Okay, and it's a powerful capability which is currently in preview. So maybe if you're facing any issue when setting up the copy job, probably at times even I experienced, I've shown you the CDC enabled table, right? So here you have, when you're trying to choose the data in the second step, you can see the table should have that CDC enabled icon. Okay, and the tables without CDC enabled will be blank. But at times I think even with CDC enabled, I noticed the table is not showing this CDC enable icon. So it could be a bug. Maybe Microsoft will work on it, and then when it becomes GA, all these bugs probably might be addressed. Okay, but I think it's quite useful. I think you can try this feature for your enterprise use cases to capture all of the changes in real time and then sync it to your destination, so you can set up the copy job. And I think let's quickly look at the known limitations. I think before that I just wanted to highlight, so I think in your Azure SQL database, okay, so this is the database level limitations for fabric mirroring. Okay, I've already talked in detail about mirroring in one of my other video, but I think you cannot mirror this particular database. In case, let's say test DB102, we have enabled the CDC at the database level, right? So already we have enabled it at the database level. So in case if there is a requirement for you to mirror this database, I think it's not possible, because you can clearly see the mirroring limitation. Azure SQL database cannot be mirrored if the database has enabled this CDC. Okay, so if you enable the CDC and then doing this incremental copy with copy job and all, you cannot enable mirroring, okay, if the CDC is enabled. So that you need to keep in mind. Okay, you will get an error. Okay, so when you're trying to mirror the same database, that's one restriction I wanted to highlight. And let's look at the known limitations quickly in the Microsoft documentation. So you can just have a quick look at this. When both CDC enabled and non-CDC enabled source tables are selected in a copy job, it treats all the tables as watermark based incremental copy. Okay, so when you select both CDC and non-CDC enabled, it will treat it as a watermark based only. Okay, that's a limitation at the moment. And when the CDC enabled source tables are selected, column mapping cannot be configured. So that is a restriction at the moment. Okay, so you cannot configure the column mapping at the moment when the CDC enabled source tables are selected. Okay. And I think the custom capture instances aren't supported. Only the default capture instance is supported. I think there is a instance that got created, when you activated the table level. Okay, so you just have to go through that as well. And composite primary key are not yet supported for merging changes, and SCD2 is also not supported for CDC enabled source data storage. Maybe I think it is in pipeline. Microsoft might bring these features at later point in time. And also DDL isn't supported yet in copy job as well. Okay, so these are some of the known limitations. But I think they're talking about the column mapping, not the key columns. Okay, so key columns, I think you can always choose which key column you want for your merge operation to happen or upsert to happen. Okay, so that you can choose always, but the column mapping cannot be done at the moment, so it's a known limitation. So please be aware of these known limitations as well, and give a try with the steps that is already mentioned. You can follow along my video and be aware of the supported connectors as well. So then I think if there is any issue that you're facing when you're setting up the copy job, let me know in the comment section. And that's a wrap for this video, and I hope you enjoyed this video. And quick summary. So in this video, we looked at the CDC capability in a copy job in Fabric, and it is a preview feature. So there are some supported connectors that we looked at. We looked at the known limitations, and I think we did a demo end-to-end between two Azure SQL database from DB102 to DB101. So we did the setup from scratch, and to see how we can choose the source, and then how we can identify the CDC enabled tables. And you have to run some system level stored procedures to enable the CDC capability at the database and table level. We have gone through that. And I think while choosing the table in the copy job in Fabric, you can identify the CDC enabled table and then proceed further, and then configure your destination further. Okay, and the merge capability, you can choose the key columns and all. So everything we looked at in this video. Okay, so give a try. And we also looked at one of the critical thing, which is setting up the user as a contained user within the database itself. Okay, otherwise you may probably run into issues. So if you're trying the authentication kind as organizational account, you have to set up the user as a contained user within your database for the copy job to work. So that is one crucial aspect we looked at. And we did a demo with a couple of scenarios. One, the update scenario for existing customer in sales order table. We tried to update the order amount and then checked by running the job. And then we started inserting some new customers, 3 customers, into the source table. And then we ran the job and validated both the scenarios in the target table, whether the updates and inserts are correctly captured automatically when the job is successful. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this video. Feel free to come up with any questions you may have in the comment section. And this is a part of applied learning series, and the applied learning series is growing on every week. So we have planned 2 videos in a week, Tuesday and Thursday we will publish. So feel free to subscribe to the channel and then follow along. And you can also watch the playlist. Okay, we have produced a lot of other videos in this applied learning series. So the playlist link will be given in the description. You can go through other videos and let me know if it is useful, and you can give a try and let me know. Okay, and I'll see you in another episode as a part of applied learning series. And thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.